yet, but that's why we want to make sure that these schools are aware of this male athlete, because the NCAA isn't telling them that they're having to compete against a male athlete. There's no informed consent for the schools or for the female athletes here. They're totally blindsided, like you said, when they walk up to the court and they see that there's a male athlete on the other side. This actually happened to me. I played college volleyball, and during my recruiting process, the same thing happened to me. I walked up to the court, and full of college scouts standing all around me, I looked at my competition and it was a boy. And this wasn't any kind of debate happening on a national stage. So I was completely blindsided. I thought this was obviously cheating, but I played anyway because I didn't have this time to sit and reflect and think about the decisions that I was making. It was just kind of upon me in that moment, without any respect given to me about that decision. So this whole idea of like, oh, girls should just stop playing. A lot of the times they don't even know. And then in that moment, they're faced with this decision of having to choose between maybe $100,000 education scholarship or their own safety and dignity. And for a lot of girls, that's a burden that is just too much to bear.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So the coach of San Jose State University girls volleyball team has spoken out in defense of, I guess, his team and the player in question. He has called out the 4 schools who cancelled matches because they don't want their female players up against a team who has a male athlete. He has spoken out and spoken about how it's stopping his team from having the opportunity to play. Never once did he address the elephant in the room though, the reason for their cancellations. Never once did he address that. And of course he didn't mention safety. He didn't mention fairness. He didn't mention that his team is supposed to be a girls volleyball team. And the other schools also have girls volleyball teams, all female. So how is it fair that you want them to play against your team that has a male athlete? He didn't address that, of course. So we know that a match took place between Colorado and San Jose State on Thursday. Colorado decided to go ahead and play against San Jose and not join the other teams who were standing up for women's sports, not join the other teams who were standing up for females and their safety. They decided that they were going to support the woke agenda, which forces girls to play against boys, which forces women to play against men. Colorado doesn't think it's an issue that they're blurring the categories in women's sports now. The Colorado State hosted San Jose State at Moby Arena, and the Rams soundly defeated the Spartans in straight sets. San Jose State played without its top player, Nayeli Tia. So, maybe that's why they lost. They broke their undefeated streak. It could be because of that. They didn't have their top player. Apparently she's injured at the moment. But, I noticed some people in the comments were a bit suspicious that they just happened to lose this time after all the backlash. I feel the same way. The school told Outkick that Tia suffered an injury during a practice last week and was not available for the match. I hope she's okay. That put Blair Fleming in a position to serve as the team's top hitter, and Fleming struggled against the Rams. Fleming led the team in kills with 14, but also committed nearly half of the team's total hitting errors. So there were 22 errors and Fleming committed 10. And like I said yesterday, perhaps the drama surrounding Fleming's inclusion on the roster affected the red shirt seniors' performance. So after the match, Spartans head coach Todd Kress said he was disappointed that his team was losing opportunities to play, but did not reference why exactly schools don't want to face San Jose State. He said, I walked up to Colorado State head coach Emily Kohan, and I was like, should I say thank you for playing us tonight? And I seriously meant that, Kress said. According to the Denver Post, it's not just us that are losing opportunities to play, Kress continued. It's the people choosing not to play us. And that's very unfortunate when it comes to these young women who have earned the right to step on the court and play. Yes, young women who have earned their right. I totally agree. They have earned their right, and they shouldn't be made to play against a team that has a male player who was there because they used their advantage as a male, as somebody who was born male, a male player who took the place of a female in a women's competition. A male player who more than likely has an advantage just for being male, gets to play with a lower net, gets to show off all of their spiking ability, if that's even the terminology. gets to show their sheer force and power, gets to show all of that off as somebody who was born male, as somebody who went through male puberty. This is a women's competition. It's the women who have earned the right to be there. But now we're having men who identify as women being allowed to play in women's competitions simply because they identify themselves as having the right to be there. When the reality is, they don't have the right to be there because they're not female. You can't identify your way into something. I can't identify my way into a bank and walk out with a big loan without having the credit. I don't know why I came up with that example. This is exactly why these teams pulled out and cancelled their match against San Jose, to stand up for the women who have earned their right to be there and do not deserve to be forced to play in unfair circumstances, in unfair conditions and unsafe conditions. If a female athlete spikes the ball and hits another female athlete, yes, she can get injured. But she's more likely to get injured if a male athlete spikes the ball and she gets hit. You have allowed a male athlete to play in women's volleyball. You've chosen a male athlete to represent you, to represent your team, therefore forcing other teams that are all female to play in unfair conditions, to play in unsafe conditions. Those are the consequences of when we allow males to compete in women's categories. That's why we don't blur the categories. The categories are very clear. But for some reason, identity means that we can now do away with that. And we're saying no. These schools are saying, no, enough is enough. Peyton McNabb has made it very clear that she is still recovering after competing against a team that has a male player, such as your team. She is now dealing with injury and her volleyball career was over in an instant. She is missing out on opportunities now. She missed out on potential scholarships. I'm sure that's not the first time a ball has hit her, but this time it was different because she was playing against somebody who is male. And these schools don't want that for their female athletes. They're looking out for their safety. Sorry if that inconvenienced you, but even players on your own team, Mr. Kress, are in fear for their safety. They can't go to training and just treat it like any other training session. They have to be vigilant and make sure that they have to do what they have to do to protect themselves. They wouldn't have that issue if it was an all-female team. But even your own players are in fear for their safety, are concerned about fairness, just like the other female players are.
Did the girls on the San Jose
Go ahead,
State
Ronnie.
team not notice that this girl was doing what we're seeing now in these videos, which is, I don't know the correct terminology for volleyball, but just spiking the hell out of the ball at levels and velocity that they're not used to seeing?
Yeah, I think spiking the hell out of it is the correct term, actually. And that's what's happening. And just Blair's ability to jump. Now, you have to remember that the net for male volleyball in college is about 8 inches. I think it's 8 inches higher than female. And there's a reason for that. And it's because men can hit harder, they can jump higher. It's just that genetic advantage, right? So when I spoke to Blair, and this, she also said this in the official complaint that she filed in the NCAA lawsuit, was that Brooke noticed, I'm sorry, when I spoke to Brooke, not Blair. When I spoke to Brooke noticed that Blair jumped really high, hit harder than any female player she had ever seen. But at that point, she was still unaware that Blair was born a male, because the school, throughout her transfer process from Alabama, throughout the first couple months, did not tell her that Blair was born a male. And that's especially problematic because she was chosen to room with Blair on multiple occasions, on road trips, shared a residence with her on campus. And so it was that Brooke really felt like she was being misled here. And Brooke said that she noticed that Blair could jump high and could hit hard, but never occurred to her to even question someone's gender, right? Until teammates kind of spoke behind closed doors and she found out what was really going on.
And then the police had to be called to this match against Colorado because people who think that it's okay for men to play in women's teams were sending death threats to these young ladies. So their safety is in jeopardy on the court and off the court, all because people think it's acceptable to allow gender ideology to affect our sports, in particular women's sports. Now we have people who can't handle the truth sending death threats to the young female players. So he went on to say, and so I think that we're in a position where it appears that government and politics have kind of intertwined itself with college sports? No, Mr. Kress, it's because people have thrown away biology and forgotten basic biology. That is why we're dealing with this now. This isn't a political thing. This is a common sense issue that has been thrown out of the window to accommodate gender ideology. Yes, you can say that's political, whatever, but it's an ideology, it's a cult that is infiltrating and affecting everybody, unfortunately. Now it's affecting our sports, in particular, women's sports. If you apply biological facts, you would not be able to justify having a male player on your team. But people don't want to address that. People don't like being reminded of scientific fact. The trust the science people love to forget the science when it suits them. Why is the net lower in women's volleyball if we're all the same? Why would the net be lower? The net's lower to accommodate women, to accommodate females, people with female bodies, not male bodies. That's why the net is lower, because this is women's volleyball. It's different from the men's. Why don't we see dunking in the WNBA? Nowhere near as much as we see it with the men's anyway, because they decided to keep the net the same height. They lowered it, we'll probably see a lot more dunking, because women are different. We know this. This is because people have lost their minds, people don't want to face fact, people think that identity trumps biology. People think that feelings and delusions are more important than reality. That's why we're dealing with this now. So if those schools want a council to remind people that we need to get back to reality, good for them. It certainly got people's attention. So he ends it by saying, and so I think that we're in a position where it appears that government and politics have kind of intertwined itself with college sports. Yeah, perhaps it has. Yeah, that's what it appears to be. That's why they're allowing men to compete in women's sports. That's why they're allowing this. That's why they pretend they don't know what a woman is. They don't want to define it because they want to push their political agenda. This shouldn't be a political issue. But funny enough, this issue has become so absurd that it has brought people with different political views together for the sake of maintaining sanity. You ask anybody who has a little bit of common sense, they would say that men and women shouldn't compete against each other unless it's some sort of co-ed thing. They would say that it's not safe. But when you want to push a political ideology, a political agenda, then you start playing dumb and you start justifying things, justifying the indefensible. That's what we're seeing now. This cognitive dissonance that is on display is very, very disturbing. And that's what I'm seeing in what Coach Kress just said. As a man and as a coach, you should know what the problem is. You should know exactly why those 4 teams cancelled. Not only are you a coach, and I'm sure you've seen plenty of male volleyball teams, you've seen the boys play, you know the differences, and as a man, you know the differences. So what are we even doing here? What are you even trying to justify? Instead of for you to apologize to the female athletes who weren't even told that there's a male player on their team, that they're sharing rooms with a male player, instead of for you to apologize for that, it's absolutely shocking. It really is. The female athletes deserve better. The NCAA have done so wrong by the female athletes. It's unbelievable. It really is. And now we have coaches going along with this. I guess they want to win. I guess they love being undefeated. That's why they're trying to justify it. It really is hard to know what to trust anymore. It really is. But one thing that we can trust is basic biological fact. So let me know what you think. Do you think Coach Kress has a point? That it's disappointing that his team's not getting to play, the other teams are not getting to play because of the cancellations? Do you think that this is because of politics, that these schools are pulling out of competitions and preventing these girls from playing? Is this because of politics? Let me know what you think. So thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.